So what is my Tesla Model 3 EV charging superchargers and the middle of backwoods hillbilly Arkansas have to do with scarcity? Well, I can tell you here in a few minutes. Stay with us. Hey guys, welcome to Cyberfied. I'm Jay Hendricks. So I'm sitting here in Auburn, Alabama, home of the Tigers, and I'm on my way up to northern Arkansas from where I live on the east side of Orlando, or close to the Space Coast. And this is an interesting trip to take in an EV for a lot of reasons. The main reason is scarcity of Tesla superchargers in very rural areas, and we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. Whenever you have a scarce situation or scarcity of superchargers, you have to do something a little bit different. Some of those things may not apply, or some of those things you may not be able to do, or you may have to do extra of, and that's what we want to figure out, and that's what we're here to do today. Before we get too deep into it though, y'all, I want to talk about a couple things here. First of all, we always do a blog. It's the blog address is listed here. Please join us there. The other thing that we want to do is there's a couple of things that are referenced in the previous montage. And you can see them all on our YouTube site by going and subscribing here. We love subscribers. We learn a lot from you guys subscribing. Basically, when you go to someone's site and you just say, hey, you know, I like or dislike, I mean, that tells us a little bit. But when you subscribe, what actually happens, that's a constant indicator of what we're producing and how it relates to what you like or don't like. Even if you don't like us or don't like this particular video, you don't like something in the video, when you subscribe, it tells us a lot about what you're doing. So please subscribe, and please like us if you love us. With that being said, let's get back to what we're talking about. So I had this Bible verse that I was thinking about in the process of this. I am actually going up to take care of my father. He's having surgery this week, and that's why we're kind of getting out. And this was a perfect opportunity to take, the Tesla, the Razor Crest Hala Mandalorian, up to the middle of nowhere and see how she performed. Now, I have no doubt she's going to do great on the mountain roads, and she's going to do fine and all those kind of things. But there's a part here, as you can see here from the map. This is where we're going, and this is the middle of the trip. I'm starting in the middle of the trip because it was real dark when I left. I left at 0 dark, 4 to 30, or actually 4:30. So there wouldn't have been a whole lot for you guys to see. So I'm starting here in the direct sunlight. I was waiting for the sun to come out, but it's kind of a little bit of a dreary day. But anyway, see the trip and see where we're going. Now, the real problem here is that after Memphis, there's no superchargers, and that's a good 200 miles or so, 180, 200 miles, somewhere in there. So with that in mind, that's a little scary, and got me a little bit concerned. So this is one of those things that, and it's not scary. I mean, I don't think anything bad's going to happen to me, although I have seen deliverance. Really what I'm concerned about is driving late, no way to get power, and the closest supercharger to my parents' house is Branson, Missouri, and that's about 50 miles. So I've got a strategy, and that's when I do it. But anyway, going back to the Bible verse. So there's a Bible verse. There's a lot of confidence that I have to have in the vehicle, and maybe even a little faith that I gotta have here. And there's a Bible verse I kept thinking about, which is, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. And that made me think about kind of what we're doing here. So there's a substance to there's a substance to what I've learned about this EV. The substance is those things that you lean on, right? So I have practical things that I know about IT infrastructure and about building systems and about operating platforms. I've worked with a lot of platform-based, vehicle-based systems. So I came in with a little bit of knowledge that's substantive, right? So that I could actually apply. So I have when I have some substance that I can base my gut feeling that, yeah, especially in this time of scarcity being the lack of something that I need, right? In this moment, I know that there's some I can find. I know that the technology should perform pretty close to what it's telling me. If I charge in the right area, if I charge in Memphis, I should arrive with about 9 to 10% at the place where I'm going. Well, that's cool, and I have substance that that I have to believe, to do that. So that's more in the confidence area of things, right? So to compare and contrast that going to faith is basically the substance of things hoped for. So it's stuff that I want, right? Well, definitely I want to make it there okay, but I think it's beyond driving and beyond a vehicle, right? The things I hope for in life, and that's the difference in faith. That's how faith grows out of confidence and grows into something, well, metaphysical, right? Something bigger than just vehicles. There's a lot of hope around what's going on with Tesla. There's a lot of hope, and I got to tell you, the innovative kind of thing fosters a lot of hope in me, right? But even more so than that, the hope of a better world, again, can be found in faith. And that's the part that I like about this Bible verse. And that's the part that I can relate to based on what we're going through today. The other part, too, is the idea of the evidence, right? The evidence. Evidence is really cool. So I took a trip up into Mississippi, and I've gotten 7 things based on data. Those data is evidence. So basically what I did was I took the Razor Crest, this vehicle, and I drove it 1,160 miles, and I came up with these 7 things. So I always overcharge up to 95% or greater, right? Of course it says on the app that you should do that, but regardless of what the algorithm says, I always try and overcharge as much as I can. Now, I know it slows you down a little bit, but in a way, an extra 10% if you're driving a road, I think is smart. First of all, I trust the algorithm. I always trust it, but I verify. And I may, if I want to stop in a particular a particular restaurant or something, I'll stop by, maybe look for a destination charge and get an extra 30, 60 miles while I'm waiting. So I do that. I use autopilot as much as possible, right? Or full self-drive if that's what you have. I use that because it is more efficient when it comes to managing the energy. You can see here in this graph, you can see here on one side, this is what I do when I got my foot in it. You see that spike, as opposed to when it's driving itself, it's a much more flatter curve and a much more flatter draw on the battery. With that in mind, that means that there's less power being pulled, and you get more efficiency and you go further. Plan around stops, you got to do that. And then you got to charge when you get there. Now, that's one of the things that I'm going to have to worry about here, because there's nowhere for me to charge. So I've already got, at the place where I'm staying tonight, I'm going to be plugged in. But that's the point, right? Is that you got to make sure you charge where they get there. That's kind of a discipline to make sure you're not lazy. Refrain from going hyperspeed. That's the other part, man. I love the way this car drives. Man, I love to put people in it. I love getting them sitting here, and I love when they're sitting next to me, and then I got them all distracted, and then I just punch it, and then they say all sorts of funny things. I love that. And then, but you got to refrain from that if you want to store your battery, of course. And then provision for charging. That's the other thing. Make sure, because some of the places you go, you just don't want to get in the car. So make sure you have some extra stuff. Make sure you're not in a hurry to go somewhere. Make sure you just got a provision to be sitting. In a regular car, you don't necessarily do that. And I want to tell you, by the way, that's probably a little more efficient, a little cheaper to provision for charging, because a lot of times, when you're buying out all the time, it's just a lot more expensive. So provision for charging. Those are my things. So those are my things that are based on evidence. So I drove this trip and I got this evidence, and then you can see that again from the other blog and the other vlog. Now, that being that reminded me again to compare with this verse Evidence of things not seen. So all of these things that I've brought to you, I've seen, right? And I've seen them with my own eyes and I've written them down. But faith is that extra piece that you don't see, but you know is there. There's evidence of things you haven't seen. And I think that's very interesting. I had a gut feeling about Tesla, and I had a gut feeling about how this would work out. I had a gut feeling about buying a Tesla just so I could talk to you about it, just so I could bring you this vlog, for instance. But what's very fascinating to me is the idea that we know intrinsically that there is evidence that we hold true to and that we believe in, that we have faith in. I would say that that is God. Certainly in my life, that is God. And there's evidence. We know it is as good as evidence, even though we can't necessarily quantify it or qualify it in any kind of empirical way on this side, in this dimension. But we still believe it's there. Certainly I do. And I think that's very fascinating as we're on this trip. So, that being said, my faith or my confidence is that I'm going to make it there tonight. I'm going to show you some more stuff as we get there. So hang on with me. I got a few more things to show you. Be right back.